Welcome back to the Money Hacks podcast. I am here with my paper money, if you can hear it. If you are watching on YouTube, you can see that I feel like my top is a bit flamenco-y vibes. I don't know, I'm just here. If you're listening to the podcast and then you can't see me, I'm here like fanning the money, like I'm doing some flamenco dance, setting the vibes. Oh gosh. So what are we going to talk about today? Love this topic. Deep topic as always, but before we jump into it, I would love to remind you / encourage you to subscribe to the channel, subscribe to the podcast so you get notifications every time a new episode, a new video or episode, however you're listening, gets released. And of course, if you would love to learn more about my signature money program, Wealthy as Fuck, you can go to www.wealthyaf.com.au and you can check it all out. Obviously, huge lover, huge promoter of it. Oh, it's so much fun. So what are we going to talk about today? We're talking about generational scarcity, generational hand-me-downs, generational lack mentality, and how and why it is keeping you broke or keeping you in debt or keeping you in the overspending cycles. I know no one wants to, we never really want to have this conversation because we never want to do the deep work or get really clear of the core of the problem. We just want to wish and hope everything gets better and just tell me what to do going forward and all those things. The amount of times I hear, I just tell me how to manage my money better. I'm like, I can tell you how to manage your money better based on what I've learned. And there's a set of fundamentals and principles that you can follow that align with universal law to build wealth. But if you're practically implementing them from a scarcity mentality or a lack mindset, you will still never feel like you have enough, even though you're hitting savings goals in the bank, you're hitting your investment goals, you're paying off debt, all those things. I know, I wish I could just say, I'll just tell you how to manage your money better and it's all good. And this is why I have so many people come to me who have read the books, who have done the other courses and the programs where it's just about money management and just about using certain buckets or following this cookie cutter, like you save this strict percentage and spend this strict percentage and all of that. It just doesn't work. It doesn't work wholeheartedly. It doesn't work in totality. In totality. It's a cool way of saying things. So what is generational scarcity? Well, generational, it's been handed down. Now, I'm not a generational expert, I guess. There's people out there who like genetics and DNA and generational lineage and all of that stuff. But I do have an understanding in, I guess, layman's terms, which is like my favorite kind of term, in how us people who need the simple explanation, that's what I'm all about. But we have thoughts and beliefs around money. We have around everything. So everything I'm going to talk to you today actually can apply to every area of your life. But obviously, I'm going to hone it into money. But we have thoughts and feelings and beliefs around money that have been handed down to us from the previous generation. So how certain beliefs around money and finances can actually backdate, is that the right word? Backdate to so many generations in the past. Like you may have had a great grandma or grandfather who had major money trauma or something absolutely hectic happen, or they were just the poverty of the poverty, right? And their beliefs around money and the trauma and the scarcity have been handed down. Now, I have to say, I've had this conversation many times with different women where it was only their grandparents who actually lived in European countries where they had to flee and they came to Australia with nothing but like a few dollars in their pocket and they fully established a whole life. So they came, like there was trauma that they escaped from and it really affected them financially, and how they handle money and manage money and look at money and behave with money reflects that. And the reason it's generational is this is my blank canvas analogy, which I will probably share this a lot throughout this podcast because it's so powerful for you to understand how the brain works, how your beliefs works, how you are who you are today, and how you've developed your relationship with money from your childhood. And this is my little analogy that I made up. And it helped me understand, like when I was like, yeah, this is such a good way to explain it, because this is how I see it and how it clicked for me. And the thing is, so we're born into this world, and I actually use this to explain sense of self-worthiness as well. So hence why you're going to hear this a bit. You might only hear it once if this is the only episode you listen to. But where was I going? Tangent time. So you were born into this world as pure energy, love, light, perfection, vulnerability, just blank. You were this blank canvas. You didn't even know you were a human. You actually, like, you had no concept. And then, you grow and evolve and your brain starts to develop. And then what happens is we get taught from our biggest influences. It's usually mum and dad. So I'm going to refer to them as mum and dad for this. I'm going to refer to them as mum and dad because it makes sense. You might have had a primary school teacher. You may have had an auntie, uncle, grandparents, an older sibling. Like, it doesn't matter. But let's just say it's mum and dad. And what they did is, you're this beautiful blank canvas. And they whipped out their paintbrushes. And they're teaching you right from wrong, up from down, black from white. Okay, so when it comes to money, they're painting on your canvas to say, this is what money is, this is what it means, this is how to manage it, this is how to think about it, this is how to feel about it. And they do this not just by telling you directly, because especially in the first years of your life, your parents are most likely not having a conversation, like sitting you down as a 4-year-old to talk about finances. If you think about it that way. But how you're observing it, how you're getting the paint on your blank canvas, is you're watching mum and dad. You're watching them speak about money. You're watching them react and feel and have an emotional experience with money. And you are seeing them behave, and especially interacting together as well, if they are together. Now, this is you developing your beliefs. In that first 7 to 9 years of your life, your subconscious brain is developing core beliefs, core stories, and they're getting hardwired in. And your subconscious, I was about to say we all know, but maybe you don't know this, our subconscious brain is like 4 million times stronger-ish than our conscious brain. The subconscious runs the show. It is the hard wiring. It is the default. It is the autopilot. So then your child, your canvas is being painted based off what mum and dad believe around money and how they act around money. Now, how this becomes generational is because they were born as a blank canvas. They were painted on by their parents or their biggest influences. And their parents and their biggest influences developed their beliefs when they got their canvas painted on. So you can see how it's handed down. And especially in today's age where we are becoming more woke, as they say, like there's a greater sense of awareness, a huge level of awareness. But we can still see in the different generations that are alive today that the older generations are very much stuck in certain ways. And then the younger generations are starting to learn new things, and things are changing and whatnot. And we are doing the work. And like, you're listening to this podcast because you want to do the work. You want to learn a different way. You want to break free. You want to make change. You want to get those results. So this generation has been handed down. And sometimes big, significant, traumatic events at one generation, it can ripple down. And the thing is, even if you have a scarcity mentality, that can be handed down. But you can also be handed down when you're born into a lot of wealth, or your parents they've come from the scarcity, but they've done the hard work and they've earned a lot of money and they have hit those goals, and then they're giving you everything. And you kind of have learned, it's almost like the opposite, but it's still from a scarcity, because your parents got lots of money. The drive to build the wealth was from a scarcity. So they still have those core beliefs driving the wealth of scarcity. So it's going to get handed down to you, or you're going to miss the lessons, and it's kind of like everything got handed to you. So then once you hit adulthood, it's when it's like, I don't know how to be independent, or I just assumed like money will just come, so I'll just spend it and get into debt. And it should be fine, because that's kind of how it looks. And I say this because there's at least 20% of the ladies and the people inside my program who actually came from that, and but they had wealth, they had a sense of wealth, it didn't have an energetic stress that they experienced, but they still never learnt the tools and whatnot to be able to be financially savvy when they're older. So anyway, just in case you fall into that category, but if your parents built wealth based off scarcity, they still taught you your core beliefs around scarcity and lack. So that's kind of what my explanation of what is generational scarcity. So your blank canvas gets painted on. Then what happens is the paint dries hard. It's that acrylic paint. You can't just wash it off. It dries hard. It really seeps into that canvas. And you get older and you become an adult and you start fending for yourself. And then you have big money goals and you're like, well, how this works is you'll be like, I'm working really hard. I'm going to get the fancy job. I'm going to go to university and get the fancy degrees, or I'm going to do this trade and get this fancy qualification, like whatever it might be for you. But you have this idea of like, well, I know I want to make more money because I don't want to have the stress like I did growing up. But you believe that, you know, I have to work really hard for money, or what will happen is, because as a child you most likely heard things or things that are in alignment directly with, we don't have enough, or there isn't enough, or that's expensive, or we can't afford that. Anything around that languaging or behaviors that match that. When you have a desire as you get older to earn more money because you want to be able to afford it, you're still going to have that core belief, which is that initial painting on the canvas that's running the show. So no matter how much you earn, it's still going to not be enough. And the amount of times I see this used to be me too, but the amount of times that I have this conversation where the lady, the woman who's on the call with me, or she's talking to me in my DMs, and she's like, it's so wild because I earn the most I've ever earned in my life, but I have nothing to show for it. It's like it's spent before it's made. So if you can relate and you're in a space where you're like, but I fucking earn money. This is so frustrating. I earn money. Why do I have nothing to show for it? I just have a really juicy credit card debt that doesn't excite me at all because I'm in debt, or whatever your circumstance may be. So what's happening is you can't, so this is how the generational scarcity works, and this is how it's embedded into our brain at a subconscious level. Now, very quickly, it's like, okay, well, how do I change this? And the how is, you can't just paint over. You can't just do the affirmations. You can't just do the conscious mindset work and paint over your canvas, because you still have the underlying paint there, the core beliefs. You have to get the elbow grease out. You have to get the terps out, or the methylated spirits, or whatever's going to get rid of that acrylic paint. And you have to go to work and you have to reprogram your subconscious mind, and you have to do the healing, or for lack of a better word, the healing, the reprogramming, the rewiring of your subconscious brain. And look, inside the Wealthy as Fuck program, my pre-work, it's one module with 3 steps. It is the most simplest way to reprogram your subconscious mind to align with wealth and abundance. It's so simple. And once you get that strategy and once you learn that technique, you can do it over and over again every single time you get challenged or you feel stuck with a scarcity belief or lack mentality. It's so simple. It's so profound. So that is how. There's other ways and means. You can go get other coaches around it all, but I've made it so freaking simple, so you can get immediate results. But that's the how. You've got to go do the work, okay? There's only so many times you can look in the mirror and tell yourself you're fucking rich or you're a millionaire before you know even consciously that it's not working, because your subconscious mentality doesn't align or doesn't match. So I did touch already, but I want to delve in a bit more about, like, why is this keeping you feeling broke, or why is this keeping you in debt? So then if you have grown up with parents painting on your canvas, telling you, like, you have seen them, they earn money, but they always use a credit card, and then they try and pay off the credit card as soon as they can, or they're staying in debt, or they're always buying things on finance. Like, debt's just one option, one example. Or they just feel broke, but you know that they buy food and they spend money. And this was definitely me on one side of my family. One of my parents would, especially during the divorce, when I could look at them separately, I don't really remember them together. But one of them would just spend, never had any money, always complained. that there wasn't always stressed and whatnot, but it was so easy to spend. Whenever there was a sale on at the shops, it was like, oh, that's on sale, so we should buy it, even though we didn't need it. Then I actually had the other side, super frugal, so frugal, like just would wait till like necessary foods are on special before buying it, and going to like secondhand stores and don't care about the quality, just getting the things because it's so cheap, like just being so frugal, but never hearing the whole can't afford it or whatnot. It's just those behaviors of just find the cheapest of the cheap of the cheap. Now, obviously there's more depth to that as well, but where was I going with this? Why is this keeping you broke? So if you had a parent, or you learned that, do you know what, just chuck everything on the credit card and pay it back later. If you have that belief, or you saw that as a normality, and you become an adult, like you will have a go-to belief and you'll okay it with like, you know what, I'll just get a credit card and do it that way, or I'll just chuck it on finance. I really want this thing, but I'll just pay for it later. I'll just afterpay it. I'll just zip pay it. Because your subconscious programming, the generational hand-me-downs, that's your go-to, that's your autopilot. Your subconscious brain goes, well, you're safe here. You grew up seeing this behavior, no one died. So now you know that you're not going to die there, so you're going to keep living this behavior. Even though consciously as an adult, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm so sick of being behind, or this is stressful, or I feel like I'm trapped in my debt or trapped in my afterpay, whatever it might be. So it's keeping you broke because your go-to habits, your go-to behaviors when it comes to money and everything else in your life, your go-to behaviors are triggered from your subconscious autopilot beliefs. The beliefs trigger emotions, and the emotions that an external factor, like a bill comes in the mail or something, usually it's like an unexpected bill in the mail, right? There's something like that, or your car battery dies and you need a whole new car battery, or your car breakdown. It's usually something that you just haven't predicted. And then that happens, that external circumstance can trigger an emotion, an emotional response, which is connected to the subconscious thought around like, oh, there's not enough money, or this is, what are we going to do? And then you behave accordingly. So that's what's keeping you broke, is if your behaviors are being dictated by the lack mentality. I didn't breathe through all of that as I was explaining it. So that's why it is keeping you feeling broke. So the thing is, you can go and earn a shitload more money, but if your thoughts, your feelings, and your behaviors are still aligning with the lack mentality, the scarcity, the not enough, the stress, the money is limited, money's going to run out, we've got to make sure hopefully the next pay comes in, living payday to payday, no matter how much you earn, like you're always going to keep feeling broke or stressed or stuck or trapped. That true sense of freedom that you are looking for, yearning for, desiring is never going to come. So this is why it's very important to break the generational hand-me-downs, which is the main core of part of my vision. Like my vision, doing what I do, is I see a world where thousands upon thousands of women and families breaking the generational hand-me-downs, so they never have to worry about money, so their kids never have to worry about money. So the abundance that is our birthright can actually be lived and felt. And as the children grow up, they're learning the value of money and how to, like, keeping a strong sense of self-worth and being financially intelligent and being highly conscious of what wealth is and making really smart decisions to build their wealth and live a really high quality of life. So yeah, how's that for some deep chats around the generational stuff? So I guess what I want to leave you with is get really clear. Like, what are the thoughts and beliefs and behaviors that you know you have, or maybe you're like, oh, if I think of mum and money, or if I think of dad and money, the behaviors, the thoughts, the feelings, the energetics, think of your grandparents, like get really clear on what the generational hand-me-down has been for you, because the clearer you are, it's like, well, I'll say this is one of my quotes. Clarity builds wealth and delusion keeps you broke. So when it comes to this, the clearer you are on what's getting in the way, what's subconsciously sabotaging you, the easier it is for you to work through it to get through the roadblock. Like if your destination, where you want to get with wealth, You know, there's a road to it, right? There's a roadmap to building it. Now, if there's roadblocks in the way and you can't see the vision, like you need to know, okay, well, I need to clear these roadblocks so I can get from A to B. What are they? What do they look like? And then go to work on them, or go get the help that you need to restructure, rewire, reprogram. And of course, if you're feeling aligned or you're feeling called, you can head to www.wealthyaf.com.au and apply for Wealthy as Fuck. Go have a read, see what it's all about. You can apply for it and, you know, see, as I said, I'm just repeating myself. You can go apply for it, go check it out, and start reprogramming yourself and the generations to come for wealth and abundance that I know working so hard to get, and it's not that far away. There's just a few tweaks to make. Anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, all the things. I love you. I'm so grateful for you for listening, and I'll see you on the next episode.